Good evening. How's everyone doing tonight? Well, show of hands, who has been here before? Wonderful. So we have some new faces in the house. We have a really cool panel tonight to talk about esports and apparel. We had a chat before. Would I do the introductions or would they? We all unanimously voted that they should introduce themselves because they know themselves better than I know them, which makes sense because it'd be weird.
Because we don't trust your skills as well.
Oh, thanks, Benoit. Lovely. Well, why don't you start the introductions then?
Okay, easy. So I'm the Fnatic marketing director, and I've got a background in brand strategy, startups, and for Apparel, I don't really dress well, but I've got experience because I worked at a very cool shop called Colette in Paris for a long time. So if you know, you're cool. If you don't know, you're not cool. But basically, that's it. And I do lots of things with Fnatic and the super good team that we have here. Most of you know them, I guess, on my team and Sam and everyone. And I focus quite a lot on Apparel because it's something I love, and I think it's something that esports need to elevate the bar on, and we have lots of opportunities there. And I'm French, as you can tell with my shit accent. That's it.
Thank you. My name's Sam. I'm the managing director of Raven. We're an esports apparel design production company. We've been in esports now since 2013. We work with individuals, teams, and organizations globally, basically producing esports jerseys and other apparel. Personally, I'm from a design background. I was a creative director for a company up in Newcastle. We're now based in Bristol. But we work with teams and, as I said, individuals and organizations globally.
Hi, I'm Kieran. I'm the managing director of XL Esports Ltd, which is the managing company of the XL Esports brand. We are a UK-based esports team, and we have quickly become recognised as one of the most well-known brands in UK esports.
Very cool. Toby wasn't able to attend tonight. He had a personal issue, but, it'd be cool if he was here as well. But we've got enough cumulative knowledge to proceed. We've kind of broken it down into 4 topics. The first of which is how do esports organizations typically monetize their merchandise and apparel? I think that given the fact that some of you haven't been to the Bunkr before, maybe it's appropriate to talk about bricks and mortar, retail and esports. So I guess the first question this is for all 3 of you, is, does bricks and mortar retail still contribute to your revenue? And do some of you only use e-commerce platforms? I mean, obviously I know the answer for you, Benoit, but do you want to take it in order like that way? Sure, why not?
At the moment we only use the e-commerce platforms. Generally how we work with our apparel providers is that we strike a deal with them to run a pro shop on their website, and we will just drive traffic to that website and sell as an e-commerce platform. We are looking in bricks and mortar, maybe not starting up our own shop like Fnatic are doing, but obviously there are still, although they're a dying art, there are still game retailers in the UK, and we're looking at maybe getting into some of those.
So from our point of view at Raven, as Kieran mentioned, we are a company that therefore offers pro shops for certain teams in esports. Obviously, we work with both professional and amateur teams, and there we run a platform on our website from e-commerce and sales from their jersey sales and apparel sales. They take a commission percentage split, and therefore we basically run the production, the design, the logistics, and the customer service from their point of view. And then obviously we do a bit of work with Belong by Game. They have arenas across the country, and they'll have jerseys in their stores. So I do think brick and mortar is going to be relevant in esports in the coming years. But right now, as we work from an e-commerce platform. So I think over the next few years, as esports continues to grow, you'll start seeing more things like obviously like the Fnatic Bunkr, as Kieran mentioned, looking into bricks and mortar and so on. But currently, it's just primarily e-commerce.
Okay. So us, it's different because we try to make our own things and be original. So we have our own shop and stuff, and we take risks. But I think first, it's always been okay. Of course, there's e-commerce because we are in the millennial business, so they buy online and stuff. Okay, but already most of the esports sales of jerseys are made at events, so it's not brick and mortar, it's plastic and whatever, but it's still, it's a booth, and that's where the people go, because they go, it's the event, that's where they're excited, they're here to support their team, and ESL, they know, because they make lots of money with our jerseys and everyone's jerseys, so they know that for sure. So this is, I think, very important, and I think if you can look into it, like the music industry, a lot of merch and super cool stuff has been done for several years now by companies like Bravado and stuff. They understand that the event where the action and the passion is taking place is where you can sell some merch. So there's a lot of great stuff now happening in music merchandising and artist merchandising. So first, events are important, and us, we're there at every event, and we're trying to have our own booth and activities at every event because we know it's there. We can interact with our fans and also get them to buy our stuff more easily because they can touch it, see everyone wearing it. So, it's kind of a dynamic that's easy to trigger. And for the brick and mortar, for Bunkr, we didn't do that we didn't do that to make sales. We made this because we wanted first we wanted to try it out because we don't know everything. When we did it, we thought let's do a 6-week pop-up store, and now it's been 1 year, so it's I don't know why, but it's not because we sell like crazy, it's because it became kind of a cultural place, and it's great for us to, of course, display our products. We also sell other teams jerseys, even NIP jersey and stuff. Bunkr has been very important because more than just a place to buy and touch the merch, it's a place for people who don't go to events or people who are not familiar with esports to actually have a bit of the experience of esports. It's nothing compared to a massive ESL 1 tournament or whatever, but it's still a beginning for us. And now it's becoming a place for people like Esports Insider or other gaming developers to come and make their events there. So it's important, I think, to have a physical place for people to come and interact with the team, the people, and the products. But eventually, I guess it will, more and more teams will try to make pop-ups and things like that. Because even, in retail, lots of brands, they stop now to have permanent shops because we are in a world that's changing very fast. So for us, it's been a good trial, and it's great, but it's not the main purpose of Bunkr. And e-commerce is, of course, something very important for us, and we're working on it hard every day. But I think that's something you forgot in your question is that it's at the event right now that it's happening, and it's still happening, and where you can still make cool shit happen for people to see and buy our products.
Sorry, can I just add to that? Yes. Just to add to what Benoit said, I just want to echo what he said, because on a slightly smaller scale, we've been to some UK-based sort of Call of Duty events, local lands, maybe in sort of 32 teams. And the way we've made the most money through our apparel is actually by getting stock in, going to those events and doing small pop-up stores, getting someone from our PR team just to run that store, and thinking that we're going to be there all weekend selling merchandise, and within a day we're sold out of the merchandise we brought. And we're probably selling more in that day than we would over the next 2 months from the e-commerce. So I think Benoit makes a really good point that it's the events that are really where the apparel is sold.
So that's actually my next question, was to say, there's some aspiring esports organizations in the room. I'm sure people who are working in apparel, in media, who are looking to, numbers, right? Sales. So I guess you three are success stories in esports. So if you were looking to sell your apparel, how would you recommend to do so? Is it that pop-up? I mean, you've kind of answered, Kieran, but...
Yeah, I mean, I would say for us at the moment, with UK esports, it seems to be slightly more difficult to get British people to buy esports apparel. I'm not quite sure why that is. Maybe it's just us as people. But teams at the same sort of standard as us in France and Germany are seeing more numbers, and I think that's just because fan bases are a little bit more nuts for it. So the way we've seen success is, you can push it on the e-commerce. That is obviously where the majority, it's a media-based company at the end of the day. But really, if you do the pop-up stores, that's where you're going to get the most sales.
Just to add to that as well, in terms of what we do, is we provide a platform where you obviously can sell online, and that's what we do. But we've also had teams that we work with who buy merchandise in for events, and that's sold through ESL, like I imagine you have done. And we've had teams in America and LA and so on do that for events for the Vainglory Championships, also in London as well. So they've had a lot of success through selling at the events. And I think in terms of scale and actual comparison between what they sell online and what they sell at the events, is they probably sell the same amount in a weekend as they would in maybe a month online. So I think pushing that way and going towards selling merch at events is obviously the way forward in terms of getting volume.
Yeah, I don't have that much stuff to add. Yeah, okay.
You just agree. Perfect.
No, but just it's important if there's some people who are like from a new brand, I know you, who like try to get into esports and stuff. It's hard, you know. There's lots of people and everything, but events is you have to launch something, or because you're not just selling products, right? You're selling a culture, a philosophy, a lifestyle. So you need to go there, you need to interact with people, you need to have, you know, your clothes on display and offer more than just a pile of t-shirts to sell, like, because you're not known right now. So, and even for us esports team, okay, like we sell to our core fan base as that our main customers, but for us at Fnatic, we have the ambition to, you know, that people buy it just because they think it's a cool piece of apparel. Yeah. So events is very important, especially when you launch, because that's where you interact with the people and get some good feedback. And because yes, it's still apparel, so it's good that people can try it on before they buy, but for our kind of customers, it's not that important.
That's cool. Okay, so I guess you kind of touched on it there, Benoit, about the lifestyle piece. That's what everyone seems to be preaching in the esports space right now. It's not just about watching games, it's about the lifestyle. And I'm really keen to hear from you, Benoit, about how active are your players in, and you as well, Kieran, actually. How active are they in the sales process, and do their contracts even mandate that they tweet about your products, that they stream wearing your jerseys? You know, I guess, again, esports orgs in the room, what should you be asking of your players in order to increase sales?
Ideally, you want them to wear it all the time and stuff, but also it would seem super fake. If they were wearing Fnatic constantly from head to toe, it would be like, come on, man, stop. Even me, I love some brands, I'm never wearing head to toe. You know, it's ridiculous. Unless you wear Prada, I guess, but yeah. We work with our players closely. Even when we work on new collections, we show them the designs, because we know they are the best ambassadors for our brand. We know that streaming is the best thing. You know, 8 hours of a guy like this with a t-shirt, at the end, in your brain, you want to buy it, you know. So it's very important channel for us, streaming, and the players are super important, but because we know that if one of our players is wearing a jersey or a piece of apparel we plan to release in advance on his personal Instagram, people are going to notice, and then we tease it, and the day it's released, you know, we already build demand and hype for it. So best vessel for selling merch and products anyway is players, because, you know, they are the true guys. You know, me, I'm just a marketing guy, you know. These guys, they are the guys who are doing the real thing, and they are the real representation of esports. So super important to work with players, and if you've got players as assets, yeah, like try to make that in their contract if you want, but also I'm not going to force them to wear that all the time. Like some of our players, they like Nike, they like Jordan, they like Supreme or whatever. Me, I'd love to have one of our players with a Supreme t-shirt and a Fnatic cap. It's the best combo because it puts us on the same level. Whereas if he's wearing Fnatic head to toe, people will be, oh, he's paid to wear Fnatic. It's not real. So us, we're all about the realness and trying to get something genuine. So yes, we can have some things in the contract, but mostly it's how you involve them in the creative process, get their feedback, and make clothes and stuff that they would wear, and that also anyone could wear.
I think just to add to that, I'd say we're again quite event focused. Every time our teams are at events, yes, it is put in the contracts that they must be wearing XL apparel at all times. Where, you know, they don't want to be seen not in XL apparel. Yes, that means they can combine it with something else, and it's not like they have to be in XL head to toe, but we wouldn't want them being seen not in the XL apparel, because that's where we're going to make most of our event sales. So yes, in their contracts it says that, and also aside from that, we have certain times where we do promotional activities, and that can be a community-facing event where we come down to a Belong by Games store with our stuff, and we've got players in their merchandise. So again, it's still event-focused. We don't at the moment force them to have, you know, XL apparel while they're streaming or anything like that. If they want to, that's great, and we'll tweet about it, that's for sure. But it's not required.
I don't know if you have anything to add, Sam.
Not really. Obviously, from our standpoint as a supplier, it's really down to the teams and the individuals themselves to push the apparel. I mean, we can tweet about it and we can talk about it, but the consumer will really just follow what the individual puts out. So from our point of view as a supplier, it's not really applicable. I
kind of want to digress a little bit, because the sort of this topic is how esports organizations typically monetize their apparel and merchandise. But again, from the esports org's perspective, what about other brands, are they coming to you guys and saying, can you conduct some influencer marketing campaigns? Fnatic players have huge social media following. Excel, you guys as well, especially with your relationship with Gfinity and what have you. So how often does that sort of help to drive, it's not sales, but I guess, revenue, using the image rights of your brand and your players?
For other brands, you mean?
Yeah, for other brands, exactly.
Okay.
So
it happens. It happens. It's happening more and more. First time we've done it was with Adidas. It was cool. We did it because they wanted to try for one of their influencer campaigns for their new ZD hoodie, which was a cool hoodie. So we did it because I wanted to demonstrate a case study for them that we would kill it, and they used super famous footballers or whatever traditional sports people in their campaign with more followers than our players, and two of our players did the picture, and in terms of engagement and reach and everything, in fact we were top of their campaign because our fans and our players' fans are much more engaged than the traditional footballer fan. So we demonstrated it, and then after, so I think, it can help a lot of brands to work with esports players. Don't work with the Fnatic players though, because no way. But yeah, of course, if I was an Apparel brand right now, I would go and see all the esports guys and in direct without going through the team and trying to sign them to do some cool stuff, because they have an amazing audience. They developed a one-to-one relationship with their fans for a long time because they stream, they chat and everything. So to me, they're the perfect ambassador for Apparel. And again, streaming is so good. It's so much the best product placement you can make for something. It's so intense. So yeah, of course, it's a very big monetization opportunities there for traditional brands. Any brand anyway, in esports, there's some cool stuff to make. So not just Apparel, but the barrier is how do they approach them? What do they tell them? What money are they ready to put in? And how they understand the culture so that they don't say bullshit when they see them. Yeah.
I think Fnatic is slightly different on this point, that you guys have the Fnatic gear. So you kind of have the scope to do a bit of influencer marketing. However, we're looking to partner with a sports brand to produce the apparel. So we wouldn't be doing any influencer marketing with other sports brands necessarily, because, that's not going to work. But in saying that, we are looking at options in terms of the casual wear. So we've just seen Jack Jones with Astralis and things like this. I think that's a really good way for brands to hit a completely, not necessarily different demographic, but a different customer. And I think that's something we would look at in the future, but at the moment I don't have any experience with it.
Okay, so that was cool that you said that. Nice little segues everywhere. Is there a willingness from the esports ecosystem? Probably, you, Sam, and Kieran are best positioned to answer this, because you're, slightly more endemic due to the global nature of Fnatic at this stage. Is there reticence from the esports ecosystem to engage with someone like, I don't know, Under Armour or Jack and Jones? Well, evidently not, but...
This is kind of one of the major points that we spoke about beforehand. And I certainly feel like, as we're a gaming brand, we do owe some loyalty to gaming brands and the endemics. But we do run a business and money talks, and the sports brands do have more money to do the sponsorship deals. They pay more for the privilege of being that apparel provider. So we are, of course, open to looking at the sports brand as well, but that's more for the performance-based apparel. So there's kind of a difference, I think, between performance-based apparel, what we're going to be wearing when we're gaming, and the casual wear. Now, it's quite easy to sell casual wear in an East London bunker, but in terms of doing that elsewhere, I think there is certainly scope to either work with gaming brands on the casual wear or work with the more Jack Jones type brands with the casual wear.
That's a Danish brand, Eric.
Yeah, Danish brand.
Okay. We made jokes about it.
Just to add to what Kieran was saying then, in terms of sports brands and coming into esports, I think for a company like us, we actually think it's a good thing, because it's going to raise the profile of esports in general. When you have teams like Astralis working with Jack and Jones, and then obviously Adidas coming into esports, as Benoit mentioned, I think for us, there's still a market for brands like Raven, because we offer the sort of the customization and flexibility that I don't think those sports brands and things like Adidas and Nike would offer. So from our point of view, a good analogy is looking at the sort of tennis market in terms of Adidas and Nike are part of the tennis market, but you still have brands like Slazenger and Babolat and so on who sort of specialize in tennis. So the way I see it for Raven is that we want to stick in esports and specialize in esports, but that doesn't mean there isn't a space for Adidas, for Nike, and so on, and other sports brands. Yeah. So that's how I see it.
Okay, Benoit, you in an interview said you want to make Fnatic the Nike of esports. I think you did. Well, it's in quotation marks. I don't know what that means, but so a blunt question: why doesn't Fnatic have a Nike check on its jersey?
Why does what?
Why doesn't Fnatic have a Nike check on its jersey?
Because they didn't pull out the $1 billion yet.
They didn't pull out the $1 billion.
No,
Okay.
it's because us, we are very proud because we make our own stuff. We design, we manufacture, we produce, we do everything. So we talk to Nike, we talk to Adidas, they talk to us. We are waiting for them to be ready. We are open, we'll see. But it's just also us. We know that we have the knowledge and passion to do this shit and do it really well because we know we've been in this for a long time. Not me personally, but the Fnatic team is real esports people. They know what they are doing. Like, for example, Eric, who's the best event guy in the world over there. Sorry, Eric, but he's been in so many esports events all the time. Okay. But he knows, he's got the knowledge in his DNA, So you can't improve yourself from one day because you're Nike and you got lots of money and great technical fabric and stuff. So they need to think, hey, I'm in esports and I'm going to be there. So us, we were thinking about this, but we also think, okay, like we have the opportunity to really build the knowledge ourselves and build the market for ourselves and do stuff for the customers that we know instead of giving it and just get some little royalty from Nike or Adidas in the end. And also because we love making these things and think about it and think about the designs. Now we're working with more really cool designers. So Toby, good friend, like he's not here tonight, but he's the designer of Palace, super cool brand, and he's working with us on some stuff. So it's super exciting with us to bring people who might not be directly connected to our industry and make them understand our world and add their own touch and originality to it. But giving everything to Nike and just waiting and counting the money, that's not where we love money, right? But we love to make cool stuff first. So that's why you don't see a Nike thing yet. But you have it on the AS Roma jersey, though. So you didn't do your homework. Yeah.
Well, yes. We'll talk about the crossover project. No, it's just for you.
Some energy, putain.
All right, so we'll talk about the AS Roma Fnatic crossover later. But I'd actually like to move on to the second topic, which is from a design and materials and sponsorship perspective. Let's talk about the history of the esports jersey because I think one of you guys mentioned before the panel the formula seems to be gray and black. With a high vis or fluorescent highlights and then an emblem and then some sponsors, sometimes lots of sponsors, and then a jersey. So, I guess I'd like to hear from Raven. How did it get to that?
So I think obviously maybe like 5-10 years ago, obviously when esports was a lot smaller then, a lot of teams were quite into their branding and their logos, and I think a lot of teams went to events with just their logo on a t-shirt. I think that was where it all stemmed from, in terms of having just a logo front and center. But obviously nowadays you have teams with more of a crest and then a sponsor on the front and then the brand on the other chest, which is more like the football aesthetic that you're probably mentioning there. But I think from our point of view, in terms of the actual style of esports jersey, I don't think having the fluorescent color and the grey and black is a negative. I think it creates an identity for esports. I mean, when you think of a basketball jersey, you think of a vest with the name across the front. And then you think of a football jersey, you think of crest, brand, and sponsor across the front. And so when you think of an esports jersey, you sort of think of that grey and charcoal, black, and then with the fluorescent color. I think that sort of is an identity for esports. I think as esports goes more mainstream and grows, you'll get different styles and so on. But right now, I don't think it's a bad thing. That's the style. I think over the next few years, you may see more minimalist designs, more space for sponsors. But from our point of view, I think
space for sponsors, you add an arm.
you add a what? Yeah, true. There's a lot of space for sponsors. But just going back to the fluorescent colours and so on, I just think that's the sort of identity of esports at the moment. It will probably change as design trends change as well. But I don't know if Kieran wants to say anything, because also you own the team. So
yeah, just that we've kind of been through that cycle that we just spoke about. So we kind of started with the big crest in the middle, dark grey, bit of pattern that you see sometimes the logo enlarged behind the logo or something like that. We certainly started there, and we've kind of evolved as we've gone on, and now we've gone to the more minimalist. I mean, it looks like a sports jersey. It would look like any other sports jersey. We have the logo here, the apparel brand here, the main sponsor across the front, the name and number on the back, and then sponsors on the arms and below the number. And the reason we did that was kind of twofold. It was, number one, to make it minimalist, to give space for sponsors, as you said. But then when you're adding the name and number element, you're taking away, obviously, space for sponsors. But what you're doing is adding a customizable element that I think drives sales. It was a sales-based decision to try and get more sales through e-commerce and have that customizable element to the jersey. And I think we've seen a lot of success with that. Some other brands in the esports industry have done it, like FaZe and things like that. I think we did it around the same time as them. And I think you'll see more of that as we go through the life cycle of the esports apparel.
Cool. All right, let's talk about sales then. You like the direct questions. I'm just going to ask you a direct one. What's the feeling from the esports community about these crossover jerseys? The Fnatic and Roma one is the prime example. And does it sell?
So we don't sell them yet.
Okay.
But the feeling is like, when do you get it for sale? So big feeling.
I want one.
But you skipped me on the other question. I retained that. You could like about the future of esports jerseys. I could have spoken about it, but
don't worry. That's
just the Roma. I think it's very cool because it was the iconic Roma jersey, and for us to have our logo there, amazing next to the Nike. So also it's a step. It makes it a bit legit for the mainstream audience, which is an audience we don't really care about anyway. But it's cool. But what's interesting, I think, in terms of the jerseys and the aesthetic and everything and the crossover is that we are just at the very beginning of the aesthetic of esports, I think. And personally, I'm very conflicted because I would like to make stuff way more crazy than this, but I don't think our audience is ready yet, so we do it step by step. But we can still have fun with like special edition jerseys like we did. We released a special edition jersey for the Worlds of League of Legends for our team with a dragon, so we thought a lot about this, about the dragon, very important. Sorry, I'm making my own jokes. But there's still ways to have fun and try some stuff, so we use that as a way to try some designs as well and see the community reaction. And what's great about the esports community is that they react immediately. So we can try stuff, get some feedback and see, and I think more and more we're going to do interesting stuff with the jersey. We've been refining our cut for a long time. We have a very good cut. Our colors are iconic. Our logo is iconic. So there's lots of ways for us to play around with it. And I think if you consider it from a general esports aesthetic, it looks a bit like future of sports kind of style, but it's taking some cues from football, from hockey or whatever. But we don't really have to follow these trends, actually, because we can do whatever we want because we are new and we are the future. So I think right now we are all kind of trying some stuff out, but in the next years, there's going to be some really cool stuff happening there. And for Roma, what's really cool as well is that it's going to be in FIFA this year, FIFA 18, as a virtual item you can wear. So this is super cool. Reaction has been great from the community when EA, and we announced that last week. So yeah, I'm just waiting for more and more stuff to arrive. I would like to take a time machine and go faster, but it's okay. We can do it step by step. It was a question.
Yeah, I think we should. Well, let's hop in the said time machine.
You want a coffee or something?
Hypothetically.
No?
Me?
Man, allez, d'énergie là quoi.
You want more energy?
I want more
right,
energy.
let's go.
C'est bon, putain.
So, okay, let's jump in that time machine, yeah? So how many, in the future, what textiles are we going to be using? This is a question for all three of you. Because I think a lot of the people in the room who know esports and know the jerseys.
Polyester.
Yeah.
Right now it's polyester. We're stuck with it.
Yeah.
Lots of different things, like we think about it, stupid ways of thinking, but connected garments. When we look and we're craving to get, all the Nike and stuff, the big knowledge they have is they have a big persuasion power, great minds and great team working for them. They invent their own fabric, all the Flyknit stuff, everything. It's amazing. So I guess more and more, as we also, as an industry and brands get more money, we'll have access to this kind of R&D material. So I don't know yet, but yeah, we are going to move away step by step from the 100% polyester, which is the standard right now. But also it's demanded by Riot. Riot, we can't have anything else that's 100% polyester. So there's also some constraints by the game developers on that sense. But it's going to evolve. I don't know exactly how right now, but new stuff.
Just to basically agree with Benoit there, obviously polyester is the sort of the main material for all esports jerseys at the moment. As it is with other sports jerseys, it's all 100% polyester. So it's hard to say where it's going to go. I think, obviously, with time, you'll see different materials come into play with, as Benoit said, when you have the big brands like Adidas and Nike and so on, they'll obviously offer some sort of different element to it. But from our point of view, at the moment, dye sublimation with polyester is basically the most flexible print production method and the most flexible material. So right now it is polyester, and I wouldn't be able to say when it will move away from that, but give it a few years.
I haven't got a clue about textiles or materials, so I'm not going to try and talk about that. That's not my area of expertise at all. What I will talk about is the other apparel, so not just the jerseys. I mean, I can't see the jerseys changing anytime soon, but the other apparel you're seeing coming out. So teams like SKT are doing the baseball jerseys. Fnatic are doing what I would call an Under Armour-esque type jacket that goes over the top of the jerseys and things like that. These different, I mean, there's such a scope for where we can go next with esports apparel, I think. At the moment, we're your standard jersey and hoodie type brand, but whether we go to something like this, when we get into the sports brands or whatever, I think there's a lot of scope for where you can go after the jerseys.
Cool. All right, still in the time machine. How many sponsors is too many sponsors? I mean, looking at trad sports, you had leagues like, I don't know, Russia, Brazil and Spain that typically had tons of sponsors and subsequently were generating less revenue. And then now you're seeing the Premiership actually moving back towards that model of having sleeve sponsors. I think the Fnatic jersey's got 6 sponsorship spots for 5 different sponsors. So how many is too many? And, in the future, we're going to see sort of just one and then that's it? Or, I mean, in an ideal world for you, would you just
I don't know.
have
I think
Fnatic?
it's funny because you follow fashion a little bit, the brand Vêtements. Someone knows the brand Vêtements in the room. You know Vêtements, no? Yeah, so only him? Okay, so you look it up, Vêtements, very cool fashion brand. They are the one defining everything that's happening in fashion in the last 2 years or something, very influential. And they just did, these days, having big logos and over-branding is a cool thing. So it's to me, it doesn't matter how many sponsors. There's always ways to make it to fit in a cool design or to fit it in. So if it's done in a way it looks like, supermarket stickers on your jersey, it's going to be bad, of course. But there's ways of making it cool and appealing for now. So, of course, we don't want our guys to be like walking advertising for brands with horrible logo and horrible products. So it's also get the good sponsors that's relevant and that they offer a good product relevant to your brand and culture and your audience. And then you can find a way to make it happen on the jersey. It's fine right now. 5, 6, 7. It's okay. To me, it doesn't look bad. I think it's part of the aesthetic right now to have lots of sponsors from a kind of weird gaming logos that people don't know apart from the gaming world, like AMD. Like you ask anyone in the street, they don't know what is AMD. But I think it's okay for now. We'll see. Like maybe we'll limit it later on, or maybe in the future you won't have any logos and it will be augmented reality logos around them. You don't know. We'll see.
Just to add to that, I mean, we're also, as part of a design point of view, we're sort of dictated by the teams and what we have to put on their jersey. So a team will tell us what sponsors are required and so on. So from our standpoint, we sort of have to follow what the consumer wants and the client. But yeah, I mean, Benoit probably knows more than me or Kieran in terms of contracts and so on with actual sponsors. What's required.
I mean, obviously you can't have two sponsors next to each other that compete with each other, right? You have exclusivity in the industries. But if someone from a new industry wants to give me money to get on the jersey, I'm going to find a way to get them on the jersey. Like, we will find a way. And the thing that I've been talking to our new supplier about is going slightly again to the sports method of what you'll see in esports is the jerseys will come already with I don't know the method, so maybe someone can help me, but essentially the jerseys have already got the sponsors into the material, dye sublimated, or is that right? Is that correct? Oh, see, I know what I'm talking about. What we're trying to do is actually have more plain jerseys come and then get the sponsors printed on them once they're here, so that we can be a bit more flexible with sponsors and whatnot. So in that sense, as I say, if a brand approaches me and wants to get on the jersey, yeah, we'll get them on the jersey. But generally, you've got 5 to 6 brands at a time, I would say. That's, as you said, that's sort of the magic number at the moment.
Cool. You got something?
Something, because you were wearing an NIP cap just earlier, right?
Yeah.
So NIP, they did the sponsorship with Betway, and it was funny because Betway, it was one of their main part of the sponsorship deal was that they have a massive big Betway logo to remind of the traditional football sponsor placement. And actually lots of people really loved that, and I know, because I know the guy from Betway, but I know that fans, they want that logo on the jersey, because for them it's like almost same brand level than NIP, but because NIP's got a weak brand as well, so this is maybe but I think it's interesting in that way, because we constantly try to Betway, we want to be like football, we want to be legitimate, because in people's mind an official's pro team jersey is going to have a massive big thing. So I think they did it really well there. We've always been kind of against of having a sponsor that's taking the central place. That's something we might change in the future for the money, But it's funny, people are trying different things. There's not that much space on the jersey, but there's enough space to make some interesting things. But there's a legacy of traditional sports who educated people's eye with where the jerseys are placed, and we can follow a different trend if we want. But it's all happening right now, and different teams are making decisions as we speak. So it's funny to watch.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this from the start because, my background's in agency. So I'm really curious to know how often you guys get approached to do sort of non-traditional sponsorship. I think what's really cool about esports, right, is that it's not like football where you enter into a 3-year deal and you put Carlsberg on the jersey and that's how everyone does it. Therefore, it is that. Like, how much appetite is there in esports for, say, a sponsored stream or a sponsored tournament? Like, okay, we're just going to stick on, Under Armour for ESL 1 Katowice.
There is. Under Armour is making deals with E-League or whatever, to give player Under Armour jerseys for the moment of the event. So a lot of them are trying some kind of small wins or small tactical placement like this to get their brand across our audience. Most of them, I guess, do them as a test as well for their CMO, whatever, to show results and there's ROI, and then to get ready to get into a proper big yearly or 3-year sponsorship deal. So you are seeing that happen. I think we're going to see it happen more and more, because as well for us as the esports brand, when the client is coming to see us, we know some of them already, they know what they want and they want the big thing immediately. Some of them want to make a small trial. So I think we're going to see more of that in the next coming years, and then after it's going to be a bit like football with seasons and etc. Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why isn't it already like football? Is it because of the volatility of?
No, but it's because people are slow to understand. That's why. Because most of the people, they don't think. Most of the people don't know about esports yet. Most of the people who know don't know how cool and important it is for the future of sports and entertainment. So it takes time for people to get, interested in it, make their research, understand, meet with people from teams who understand their needs and can provide for them. And as well, it's just from a perspective of, it's, when you're a big brand, it's tough to unlock a budget to do something new. When you're a big brand, it's tough to do something new in general. When you see a big brand releasing a new product, probably they worked 3 years before on it. So it's going to take time. We're just in 2017. It's okay. It's going to be faster after, but we're in the education phase, and some people are faster than others to understand or to manifest their attention or interest, but it's happening every day.
Yeah, we started off with that traditional model of the sponsorship on the shirt. There you go. That's all you want, right? But the thing with gaming and tech brands, even the endemics, don't see esports as alongside sports when it comes to something like that, right? So they're going, oh, well, that's great, but we don't get any ROI from that. The brands that are on the football jerseys, they're not really worried because they know that it's such a massive sport and they know their name's getting out there. Brand recognition in the esports industry isn't necessarily as easy to sell. So we've had to be a bit more creative with how we've approached sponsors and do more campaign-based things. So, okay, what do you want to see from the next 3 months? Is it a sponsored stream, something like this? And be a bit more clever with how we're running our sponsorships in order to secure those deals.
Cool. Sam, do you want to contribute, or are you going to duck out of this one?
I'm ducking out of this one.
Sweet.
I think it's been covered.
Right, let's talk about streetwear. I think you sort of alluded to it earlier, Kieran, that you've got these esports jerseys. What success stories have you guys had, or what have you seen that you've liked in terms of doing hoodies and hats, and other than the hat I'm wearing, of course?
I think it's been really difficult in general in the esports market to hit that casual wear. As I've said, I think you're in a place where casual wear can be sold right now. But to get that, we talked about like the lifestyle and the culture, and to tap into that in the esports industry is really, really hard, because some people who are massive diehard esports fans are embarrassed that they're massive diehard esports fans, which I've never really understood, because you just embrace it, right? So they don't want to wear those things casually. They might wear them to events, but outside of those events, they won't wear esports branded stuff. So then you have to be, as I say, a bit clever in that you have to make it so casual that no one from the outside would even recognize it as an esports wear piece of apparel, perhaps. But that's a difficult task for anyone. So in terms of success stories, I think perhaps Benoit's probably, you're looking at a success story, so maybe Benoit can shed some light on that.
Your question again, what is it? How do we manage to...
What success stories have you seen in terms of, from a Fnatic perspective, what sells well? Like, are your jerseys number one?
Jersey is still number one.
Yeah.
We'll always be number one for a while. But us, we are one of the only esports team who actually managed to develop a real range and revenue and, creative output in terms of normal lifestyle, casual wear, whatever you want to call it. Works well for us. We're working more and more. We did the summer collection, like, for example, that's funny, but you see this T-shirt over there with the rainbow stuff? When we were doing it, like, internally we showed it, and then like we were thinking, oh man, like people are gonna treat us of gay or whatever. And when we put the first Instagram post with it, like half of the comments were like gay Fnatic, but best-selling T-shirt, So that's so that's the funny thing. Like you can try stuff and then don't. And even if we have this maybe I think wrong image of the esports fan who's ashamed of being an esports fan, who's homophobic, like. There are still good people there, and most of the people are good and gonna wear it and be proud with it and wear it in outside of esports events. So us, we think we have a lot of potential there. I think other brands can play a role in that too, but it goes into like really integrating some real design thinking in how you do that, and collaborate with some people who actually know how to do this, and bring them in our world and make something totally unique and different, because you work with these guys with our own knowledge. So. Big potential. I love working on this. I think we are just at the beginning of what we're creating from a lifestyle perspective, and it's going to be cool.
I mean, to add to that, in terms of what sells, when you ask about jerseys and streetwear, obviously we have a platform where we have multiple teams selling products from the Raven website. And in terms of the best-selling products, it's always been the jerseys. Obviously, we have other team wear, but then when you have a specific team you're selling for, you're obviously limited to their fan base. So it is dictated by the sort of size of their following. Obviously, the teams we work with aren't on the same scale as Fnatic. But we have communities and so on in America who do extremely well in terms of jersey sales. And I think streetwear and so on, as that grows and as esport grows, you'll start seeing more teams like Fnatic doing the streetwear. You'll see smaller teams bringing out streetwear and their own sort of clothing lines. But as it stands and the current size of esports, jerseys and and Team Apparel seems to be doing the best in terms of sales from our back end anyway.
Cool. Thank you, guys. I'm going to hand it over to Ollie here because people are getting a little bit tired and everyone wants to drink beer. So he's going to open it up to the floor for questions.
Yeah, guys, I'd just like to ask you to give a round of applause to our fantastic panel. Yeah, thank you very much to everyone that took part in the panel, and also to our partners, Gamers Apparel, Double Tap and ESL, for helping us put on this evening, which, again, happens once a month. Next month, we are here on the 26th. It's already looking extremely busy, on par with the betting event last month, but all of you are better people than the people that came to last month's forum, so don't worry about that. Next month does focus on sponsorship. I'm going to ask if any of you have any questions for the wonderful panel. Oh, God, so many questions here, guys. Guys, the pizza is arriving soon, all right? Everyone's hungry. A lot of people are starting to get hangovers. Dom Sacco, he's looking... Come on, guys, we have to let him have the first question. He hasn't got much hair left.
That's true. Hi, guys. This isn't to anyone in particular, just interesting to hear your thoughts, whoever wants to answer it, really. There's a brand licensing event coming up in London soon. I'm an Arsenal fan, for what it's worth, and whenever I go on the online store there's so much they have. They have dressing gowns, ties, boxer shorts, anything you can think of. Do you see a world where esports will be as big as that? And what kind of sort of licensing partnerships do you think will emerge in esports in the future?
I mean, to be fair, most of the Arsenal team are in the dressing gowns most of the time.
No, but first I hope we never make a tie, otherwise I quit. It will get there, because just if you take from our belief, my belief, and our belief in Fnatic is that we are the future of sports. Okay, so Arsenal, all these guys in 50 years, not important. So, so 50 years though, so we'll be quite old and with no hair at all. Yes, it will happen. Then from a licensee, because it's very hard. For example, Gucci, they had this problem for a while. They licensed their brand and people were making Gucci mugs and Gucci shit and horrible stuff. The brand, then Tom Ford arrived and saved the ship. So me personally, I know if we do this one day, we need to be super careful, because we don't want to dilute our brand and get horrible products that then get people, think our brand is shit and they get sick because it's made in a weird plastic material, I don't know. So I'm not that keen for that. I guess one day it will happen, because I think that a lot of esports brand will become, if people work hard and continue to push for this, will become as big of a brand than Arsenal. Because Arsenal, it's, these days it's like Ferrari. It's a big brand. So Ferrari, you have Ferrari ties, I've got Ferrari espresso cups at home. So then one day, but also us from a merch perspective, we already do small type of items like this, but I think it's good that if we make them, but if we start to go in the licensing business, we need to be careful with what's made, because it can kill your brand. So, yeah.
Just to add to that, it's kind of community driven, really. If it relates to the fan base, then you do it. So mouse mats, snapbacks, they're obvious additions to the esports apparel range. But there does come a point where, as you say, you dilute the brand and you make the brand ridiculous. But ties, I'm all for, especially with League of Legends, and you see the coach go up there with a tie, have a nice branded tie. Oh, that'd be beautiful. That'd be fantastic.
Okay, guys, you might have had a little scent. The pizza has turned up slightly early, which makes people more anxious. Has anyone got any questions? We still have a couple.
Yeah. I've spoken to a lot of people who've talked about this kind of future where esports starts to separate a bit, where we don't kind of glomp everything together as esports. We have Counter-Strike, we have League of Legends, and we consider these more individual sports almost. One thing I was curious, because I've never asked a team this, have you ever thought of designing different kits based per different game? Because obviously there's some people who might be a fan of, Fnatic's League of Legends team, but maybe they either don't follow Counter-Strike or they just don't support Fnatic in Counter-Strike. I was curious to know if if you've ever thought of, or if the guys you work with have ever thought of differentiating different kits for different games.
Okay, yeah, we personally haven't. I think that's a great question. I think you could see that happen at some point. We're very much a one jersey fits all organisation at the moment, and while we're still building our brand, I think that's really important. But as Benoit's just alluded to, perhaps a brand on the level of Fnatic that are starting to play around with a few things have got the scope to do something like that. Next year.
Next year. Right, I think if we have one more question. Lawrence?
Kieran very briefly touched on a thing I've actually been wondering about, with the idea of having conflicting sponsors on the same jersey. That's obviously a big issue. But what happened? Where the industry is going, where developers, game publishers are becoming like, obviously in terms of what events are run, those are still like the main like propitiators of tournaments and so on. But as like esports grows, we're going to see more tournaments that are like sponsored or run by sponsors. Red Bull is a good example of this. So what do you see issues coming about? Because for a good example is a Red Bull tournament that happened very recently where Team Liquid players were not invited and were actually, just like they didn't want them there because they're sponsored by Monster. Fnatic, Fnatic probably would have had the same issue because they're also sponsored by Monster. So when like brands, are starting to get like a much bigger like footing in the esports industry, do you see that to become an issue?
Yeah, I think it already is an issue, especially with some of the event organisers are getting sponsors for their events that conflict with the teams that are competing at those event sponsors, as you've kind of alluded to. And that's a big problem, especially when, say, your player plays really well in that series, they get a Man of the Match award, and then they have to whack a Red Bull jersey on over for the interview afterwards. And they're covering up that Monster logo that you've got on your jersey. I'm hypothesising, but something like that, that's a massive issue, and that breaks contracts. So how that gets regulated, I don't have the answer to, but it's a huge issue at the moment, and it needs to be looked at.
Yeah, I'm not dealing with contracts specifically and stuff, but I think the brands need to chill out as well. Like if you go in a shop, you've got Monster and Red Bull in the same shelf. So what are they gonna do? So they will find a solution eventually. I think it's good if brands start to put money and make their own, and pump some money in the industry and make their own tournaments. But not a lot of brands can do that first, so it's limited to a certain type of vertical and big brands. And then, I think the people working in sponsorship, they need to live a bit in the reality. They can't be like, you can never be that. Sometimes it happens, it's okay. But we'll see. I'm not dealing with that personally, so I'm not too worried. It's okay.
Right, thank you very much, guys. I'm going to firstly say that energy drink politics could be a forum in itself. Having written for Red Bull, I can't interview half of the world for esports. Because if they have Monster, G Fuel, Mountain Dew, you name it, you can't interview them. Regardless, I have a final question that we're going to end on, because this is obviously going to be the best question. If you look at like Sports Direct, and you look at these guys, right? If you go to Sports Direct, you have jerseys from everywhere. Do you see a future where you go into Sports Direct, and you don't just have Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal, you have Fnatic, Excel, I don't know, whoever. Do you see a future where these massive stores that sell a variety of football jerseys have esports in them? And do you think that's gonna shape the future? So yes, and also I don't think this kind of shop have a big future anyway, because I don't know their numbers, but retail of this kind of multi-thing these days is not doing super well. So I question their future rather than can we have their jersey there? Yeah. Right, awesome, guys. The pizza is here. Oh wait, Raven.
I was just going to say, I think it's probably going to go that way. I mean, you have Game, who have jerseys in their stores and so on. So, yeah, I think that's true. I mean, Game.
Guys, we do have a boxing match afterwards.
Yeah, I won't say too much on that, but we may see it. I think we see it at the moment anyway, but I don't know about Sports Direct.
Fair enough. Right, the pizza is here. It's getting cold. So just one more round of applause for the panel. Thank you very much.